Hello, everybody. Happy Monday night. Welcome back to Vintage Rescue Squad. Catherine's down there with the hocus.
Yeah.
Catherine's luxuriating tonight,
She
y'all.
is.
She
So cute. Tell
Look
us
at-
about your smock, Catherine.
Well, thank you. This is an antique Oddfellows robe.
Oh,
Like, oh, this old thing?
Because who doesn't need one of these to lounge around the house in and chat with your friends in the evening with?
I mean, I'm
right.
saying
Hocus pocus indeed.
you need at least two, right?
This is real. I have
It's-
remorse. I have buyer's remorse for not buying like everyone on the
I
Yeah,
bet you
'cause
do.
I kind of want one now, Catherine.
right.
Yeah.
$35.
Well, Misty, you know we're stuck
Wow.
with our uncool flannels, says Emma.
I love your flannel.
Thank you, Catherine.
I love
It
it.
has a
Get
piece
it.
on that.
Flannels.
And we got it when we went to the extravaganza. I got one, Sarah got one, Laura
Lori.
got one, and Emma was like, "Oh," when she saw it this weekend. So
David and I tried, but we didn't. Just none fit us right. So
They're cute
We
though,
tried.
right?
They
I
were.
love them.
They were
They're
very-
handcrafted.
They are. They're artisan made.
Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
I love it.
All right, guys. Well, we're off to a rip roaring start there. It's wholly organic tonight on Vintage Rescue Squad. Before we get into it, and of course, we'll make sure that we do our official introductions. There are definitely some people in the chat that we want to say hello to, and we're going to start with Anne. Anne, you are the first official comment. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. We've got Wolves 2018, 19,
20.
Holding on.
22. Hello, Wolves. Hello, Miss Karen Radford. I'm telling you, she's definitely putting the overtime to put
Yeah.
that good reputation back on the Karen name, and I think it's really paying off.
I'm sending her bone saw out tomorrow.
Oh, I can't
That's
wait.
right.
Let
That's
us know
right.
with that.
So she will. She's got saw in
She'll be on the
hand.
loose
So
with a bone saw.
I did
that's
all I
right.
could not bid on that.
You should have just went for it. Why not? Hey, shenanigans. Hey, Miss Jackson. How you doing out there? Good evening, Linda and Sawdust. How are you all doing? Pammy Whammy Lady. Good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm going to scroll down to try. We've got Northwest Sunshine. Good evening. And Kim Rogers. Welcome back, lady. Good to see you. We've got Jason and Tina. I will return your call when we get off of Vintage Rescue Squad.
I gotta plug in my computer.
Uh-oh. We've got Kathy. Good evening. How are you? Again, you guys, thank you so much. Hey, Amy. Good evening. Thank you for bid ending again last night. And Tammy, how are you? Hello there, LaDonna. How are you? Alrighty, guys. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to hold on to this so I don't drop it. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Hello to everybody that we are missing, of course, in the chat. We've got Perla is with us, and Connie, good evening. Hello, Sarah Lee, how are you? And Judy, hello, guys. And oh, there's Perla again. We got Julie also is in the chat with us. Well, you guys, before we do our official, we won't tell anyone. We won't tell anyone. Before we get, of course, into the chat and our introductions, you guys, we do want to let you know, as is always the case on Vintage Rescue Squad, that while we happen to be the ones that are up here on camera, that doesn't mean that you guys are not a part of this conversation. You guys play a pivotal role in the conversation that we have up here on screen. If there's a question that you have or a comment that you would like us to address, please feel free. Go ahead, put it in caps. That way it stands out a little bit better. Both Misty and I can watch the chat, and we'll do our best to make sure that we highlight as many questions or comments that you guys have. But to make it, there we go. Thank you, Amy. But to make it the easiest way to recognize those, put it all in caps, okay? So let's go ahead, let's go around, let's do our official introductions, and then we'll dive into the conversation. So who wants to go first? Do you want to go Catherine, Sarah, Misty, and I'll go last? We'll go counter clockwise. How about that?
Sure.
That works.
I like it.
Okay. Get it, Miss Katherine Young.
Well, hello, I am Katherine Young, and my YouTube channel is just the same name. We are in October, spooky season, and I do a ton of Thriftoween videos. So we got, oh yeah, that's right, backwards, spiders, and my
Ooh.
robe. You can actually watch me thrift this. I was with Sandy, my flippin' van life, and Jody Renshaw, and we picked these up. I also have a thrift with me in Salem that is pretty spooky.
Ooh.
Got some hocus pocus themed doll video up there too. So
Yes.
check it out. If you love spooky, if you love thrifting and vintage, go check out my channell. And I'm so happy to be here. And hi, Mom. My mom's in the chat.
Hello, Catherine's mom.
Love all the moms.
Mm-hmm. Sarah lady, you want to introduce yourself officially?
Well, sure. I am Sarah. I am the traveling button. I am a vintage reseller and have been reselling vintage for close to 9 years now. And I started on Instagram and transitioned to YouTube. And I love it here. I love the community. I love the people. I love my co-sellers. It's just a great experience. I drop weekly videos on my YouTube channel, which is the traveling button. And yeah, I'm trying to get better with that part of it. And then I have 4 live sales weekly here on YouTube, some of which are with these guys. So yeah, it's great. I love it here. I love all you guys. And I'm also been a business coach for small vintage businesses that are either wanting to get off the ground or having troubles and what have you. So on Instagram, I am also the vintage shop coach.
Get it. She likes to stay busy is what she's trying to tell
She
you.
does like to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Yeah.
a busy girl.
How about, speaking of busy girls, we've got this one here next to me.
Yes, I am Misty, Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter, and I sell on YouTube and whatnot. And I also put up, not really thrift, more antique mall shop with me videos and flea market videos and that sort of thing. And I did used to have 4 sales a week. And then I was like, no, I'm cutting back and I'm having 3 sales a week. But now I'm having 4 sales a week because I've been having 4. I had 4 sales last week and I'm having 4 sales this week because I'm going to be on Sarah's channel on Thursday. So after this week, I'm only having 3 sales.
Only.
For like a couple of weeks, and then she's going to go right back.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
We know you. It's going to happen.
Yeah, you are.
Oh,
You
yeah.
literally are.
Just for that weekend, though, Michael.
We'll see.
Just for that. Did she? No. Oh, well, just for that weekend.
Sure. Every once in a while, but not every week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And of course, I'm Michael Todd. I am the Cult of Vintage. And just like everybody else here, I do post weekly YouTube content, typically 3 times a week. Again, like Misty, mine are going to be primarily antique malls that you are going to be shopping with me in occasionally a thrift store. And of course, I do have 3 live sales weekly, of course, on Sunday, on Tuesday, and on Wednesday. Hey, Carrie, how are you all doing? Yeah, so let's, you guys, thank you so much for joining us again, taking time out of your day to spend the evening here with us. We appreciate everybody that is here, and including everybody that's out there that's lurking, though I would encourage you to say hello. Let us know it's your first time.
Yes.
Maybe it'll be your first time commenting. There are some great people down there in the chat, and I'm more than sure they are going to make sure that you feel welcome here at Vintage Rescue Squad. So how about we do this? Last week, we really did have all intentions to discuss this upcoming holiday, or as it is known, Blackberry Thistle has put it in there for us, the 4th quarter.
Here we are.
We are here.
We're
We're a week and a half into it, aren't we?
Yeah. It's wild.
So, ladies, what is 4th quarter? Shall we explain what exactly 4th quarter is? Who wants to take it?
It's
Christmas season.
it's a fiscal year kind of thing. And it's the last section of 3 months of the year. So October, November, December.
And it
That's
just
the
so,
technical version. It's
yes.
it's shopping season. That's the easiest version.
You have the three major holidays. October has Halloween, November has Thanksgiving, and of course, December has Christmas. They are the three biggest shopping holidays of the calendar year, and that just coincides with them being the last 3 months of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
So, Misty, what last week was it that you were kind of hoping talking about you wanted to talk about preparation? Was there anything that, you ladies have done in regards to preparation for fourth quarter, or what are you expecting for this year's fourth quarter?
Well, I mean, I think fourth quarter, I haven't seen any explosion in, like I haven't noticed any like, oh my gosh, it's such a great fourth quarter. It's very much been the same. I haven't noticed, and I do keep track from week to week to week what my sales are, and I've not noticed a big increase in sales. But I think that some things that you need to do as far as selling online is to make sure you have your plenty of supplies on hand. Making sure you have your bubble wrap and your paper and your boxes and poly mailers and those sorts of things too, and hopefully not packing peanuts. Show
Triggered.
of hands, who uses and in the chat, who uses packing peanuts?
Only if it's in a package that has been recycled from something else, then occasionally we will use them.
Just to recycle them again. But
just to recycle them, yeah.
It makes me angry. Because it's a mess.
But we don't like buy them in bulk to put in packages or anything, no.
Right.
But if I get a package that's had packing peanuts, then we'll recycle that.
You'll reuse those. It's like the perpetual cycle of packing peanuts then. It's the traveling packing peanuts.
It is.
They go from house to house to house. It's just really, really messy. And like I'll be in a great mood and then I'll open up a box and I'm like, oh, packing peanuts. And I'm like slamming things around. And I do get that they do make things a little bit lighter, as far as shipping. And we're trying to save our buyers as much money as we can as far as shipping costs, because shipping costs are getting ready to be increased. Katherine,
they're already increased. Did
it already happen?
Yeah.
October.
I know.
Yeah, it has already happened. And David and I were actually just talking about this, which, this is another good thing with your question, Michael, is how do we want to prepare for fourth quarter? Well, shipping has gone up, and unfortunately that translates to the customer. So, and they always do this. This is not really a new thing, but the rates go up kind of quarterly anyway, if you pay attention, just by a few cents, right? So, and they've done this every year since I've been selling. So it's not like it's anything new, but they always increase pricing for shipping around the holidays. So that is something to be mindful of for buyer and seller. And that increase has already happened. So it's going on right now. Yeah, October 3rd, right, Taylor? Yeah. And that's something to prepare for both ways. But fortunately, it's not like it went up a lot, but it's like $1.20 to $1.30 per package if it weighs over a pound. And then
do you think?
Class, of course.
No, it is. We were talking about it yesterday, actually, over breakfast. And Mark looked it up, and it is like zones, like different zones. Right. So like if I were sending a package from where I am and from my zone to California, it's like $1.20 increase.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a lot, but it does add up.
It does. It does. So it's just something to be mindful about. Again, we always deal with this every year. So it's not like it's a new thing, but it's just another thing to think about. I think another thing that you can do to prepare for these 3 months is get your holiday items out sooner than later. Because I found this year with Halloween items, they sold best at the end of like July into September.
Interesting.
And then now that we're into October, and that usually happens, I noticed that trend on Instagram a while back, but now I know on YouTube it's kind of the same. So that usually happens that first week in October, it trickles off. And then you want to pull your Christmas items out and start mixing them into sales if you have curated for Christmas, which I know most of us do. So
Yeah. I typically start after Halloween. Maybe I should do it before, but after Halloween, I pretty much exclusively only sell Christmas items or like Christmas colors or things that people can use.
Themed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you can sell holiday items year round, you don't, but typically when people are in the season, like they're filling the Halloween season,
yeah.
they're probably going to pay a little bit more for items Halloween right now.
Yeah, I sold Halloween in my antique booth over a month ago.
Yep.
I sold blow molds and everything. So I really noticed a spike, and I'm still seeing a spike in my antique booth. I can just bring boxes in. They're like, hey, bring in more.
Yeah.
I can see a spike more in the physical retail right now than I can on my channel. But I can see that companies are dumping more money into the ads now.
Yes, they are, aren't they?
So I'm a little bit strategic about stuff. I purposely do Halloween content so that the next year my old Halloween content recycles and again and again and again. And just making a video that related to Hocus Pocus, that video has doubled my revenue for the month already, just because it's super popular thing to do. So
that was an amazing video too, Catherine. That was a great video.
So one thing, like, you're going into the holiday season, if you're a content creator, and I think it's like across the board for different topics as well, but think about those different themed content that, can kind of boost you up because it is the holiday season. What are people interested in? Well, I want to learn how to decorate my house. I mean, watching those decorating videos, like, no one's business,
That's cool.
Great tips.
Well, and as Amy says, the just to address earlier, it will end January 22nd. So it is not that it is a permanent price increase so far as shipping. It's hard. I don't know. I didn't notice the increase in shipping simply because, we are using discounted shipping rates. So even though there is an increase, it's still less than what it would be if we just showed up at the post office. Yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing. Linda's bringing up that she's embarrassed that she started listening to, girl, not me. In July, I will feel the need to listen to Christmas. Yeah. And Misty has heard it. I will.
Christmas music. And he's like, yeah.
I said, yes, I am. 'Tis the season. It should be celebrated year round. And I will say this, I really think that Halloween, especially this year, I think that Halloween has really proven to be now kind of like an evergreen so far as when it can sell like Christmas. It's just really interesting. I think people have really gotten behind Halloween like never before. So that is exciting to see. The holiday merch is always difficult to get, especially stuff of quality.
Yeah.
And you're really seeing people finding friends online based on spooky stuff. I mean, one of like the most active groups on Facebook is Halloween Forever, and it's run by Jay Libra here on YouTube, and it's just spooky all year round. And people are like, I knew when stuff was in stores in June and July because code orange were being posted. So it's really becoming like a cultural connector.
It is.
More traditional holiday are.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree. I like Midge Munster too. I love watching her
Yes.
too, and she puts out
Oh,
I know. I love her.
Yeah.
She's been a guest on Vintage Resale Squad.
Yeah.
She has.
We need to have her back.
We should have Midge back, yes. And I think so far as getting Sweet Pea, I will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you. I think that, too, talking about getting ready for fourth quarter, something that's really important or at least for me, has really, especially if you're going to put out video content, is really trying to get as far in advance. so far as filming and getting the videos posted, and really making sure that you're getting content edited, scheduled, so that way it's just less of a stress reliever, so that you have more time to focus on shopping, on doing photos, on doing reels, and really putting it out there. Because as Katherine said, if you are a content creator, hopefully you have seen an increase in your per view revenue. So it's definitely a really good thing to get paid twice what you were getting paid just a month ago. So go for it.
However, as of
However,
January,
Yeah.
I mean, it does. It gets
Yep.
cut in more than half. So I mean, you kind of have to you do it, and I'm even considering in January maybe just doing 2 videos a week, just because of the time that it takes to create the videos, and just going out and shopping and buying things for the
Mhm.
videos. When your ad revenue does get cut down so much, it does affect, because I use my ad revenue to reinvest back into my business. So I use that ad revenue to go and buy items to flip and resell. So I mean, it does. You kind of have that in the back of your mind all the time. I'm like, oh, it's great, but then you're like, January's a coming.
Mhm.
So you do have to kind of plan for that. But I mean, just go for the ride right now. And I think, like Katherine said, making some of those evergreen content. And I think it's okay to kind of step out of your comfort zone, I guess, a little bit. If you're only doing thrifting videos or reselling videos, maybe do a home decor video, or do a vlog or a day in the life kind of video. Might be a little bit interesting. When I first
Mhm.
started doing my vlogs, they were horrible. I mean, they didn't get a lot of views, and now I have people requesting them. Please do more vlogs. Please do more vlogs. So you just never know. I mean, and they're fun. They're fun. It's fun to kind of open up and let people in a little bit. I think can be very fun.
And if you're really stumped for ideas, if you want to kind of push yourself out of the box, a lot of creators will do open collabs. So you can just search open collab on YouTube, and you can find a creator that says, to post a Halloween decor video. I want it October 13th. Use the hashtag spooky dookie, and
Spooky dookie.
I like it.
You
Uh-huh.
might get all kinds of stuff coming up in that.
You might get under that. Yeah.
Great one. There was a thrifting spoo boo-tacular, I think. There was just a one by My Blessed Nest, and a bunch of the people from the vintage community participated.
Yeah, I saw.
So
yeah.
that is also a great way to drive views, especially if you're a smaller channel, because people will take the playlist and they'll just go through it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Those are great. I just learned something. That's awesome.
Oh, hey, get it. Get it.
Yeah, you know what? That's the great thing about this. We learn even at our sales. People will come in and we learn so much from one another
all the time. And I think that's what's great about what we do is you never know it all. You'll never know it all, especially vintage histories and all of that. But it's a lot of fun to, bank that knowledge and then be like, oh, I can identify all kinds of stuff now,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just seeing Saturn girls, and it's, and Saturn's making the comment of, we love to hear about your lives.
Like, what? Michael was like,
I know. I was just like, oh, I don't want to talk about
Michael,
not to be stalkers, but like, where are you all from originally?
Yeah.
Indiana. Born and raised.
Sarah Coleman, how about you, lady?
A tiny town about 100 miles south of Kansas City, Missouri. I am a Missouri native and a Colorado transplant. We've almost been here for 9 years in Colorado. So, but yeah, I'm from Missouri.
Missouri.
So I grew up in rural North Dakota, and then I moved back and forth across the country 6 times, actually. But most of my time was in the Orlando area, and now I am in the Twin Cities. And I actually bought my first home, so roots here finally.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
I am in St. Paul proper.
Nice.
Okay. I am originally from Pennsylvania, and of course, I did move to the South for a number of years, and I've moved back now to Pennsylvania. So that's not too personal. I can get down with
There you
that,
go.
right?
Right.
People when I say y'all, and I was like, I just kept it. I liked
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, when I
Hmm.
get real worked up, my Midwest comes out, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My Midwest is always present.
Uh, now, shoot. Now, and this is really interesting because I think that we were having a really, I think, very interesting conversation before we went live. And ladies, if it's something that you're comfortable on, we don't have to go into great detail with it, of course. But Sarah, you had a very enlightening talk this afternoon with Enamor Amy. Would you like to share with us your conversation today?
Sure. On my channel every Monday, Enamor Amy and I rotate back and forth. Our We Are Vintage talk show. So we chat for an hour and then we do a little sale for an hour. And we were just talking about how today is Indigenous Peoples Day. And we were talking about, the etiquette around how you feel personally about those items, and the respect and cultural heritage that should be paid to the items and just kind of what the etiquette is. Personally for me, it just because I feel that way doesn't mean you have to adopt my same beliefs or thoughts on that subject. But yeah, it was a good conversation. I feel like it's more of a purpose to just inform and educate than anything. And today was a good day for it.
It was a really good one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, do you ladies ever, let's just get right into it because it really did get my brain thinking. I mean, and it's Sarah, I believe that you said that you guys had talked about this, but are there ever things that as resellers, you may find, but you have concern or you
Mhm.
have maybe misgivings about bringing onto a sale, whether that's a live sale, whether it's eBay. Well, eBay has very stringent rules in
Mm-hmm.
regards to things that can and can't be sold. But is that something that ever concerns you, ladies? Or even getting it on camera? How about
Actually,
that?
you know what's funny, Michael, after Amy and I had the show and we got over, that was something that someone commented.
Oh,
They
okay.
had watched one of my videos and they realized, because in the video I addressed it, and they realized that I didn't pick up this watercolor, gorgeous little vintage kids watercolor tin. It was a little litho tin. And I didn't pick it up because it had a racist depiction of a Black person, a person of color that I was not comfortable with. Okay.
Hmm.
So I talked about it on my video and that I love this 10, but oh dang it, it's got this depiction that I don't want to bring to my channel. I don't feel it just personally doesn't feel right for me. So, and someone commented on that and just said, I love that you talked about it in one of your videos. So I think it's just something to be conscious of. Just in general, I'm an empathetic person. If you know me on a personal level, I cry at the drop of a hat. I'm an empath. And so I have a very easy time empathizing with others. And I find the history something that is fact that a lot of us just weren't taught in school. And I think that's a good point too. Those of us in our 40s and older were taught a completely whitewashed version of what actually happened. So it's important at our age to just be cognizant of what's real and what's fact
To be
regarding
aware. Yeah,
situations of social justice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and and I think this it's something that's really interesting. Anything that we don't talk about it, and I think that we don't talk about it out of fear. I think
Yeah.
a lot of times, and it's
You're human.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think also too is that sometimes if you are not a person of color, that you may feel that you don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to come across as knowing something when ultimately you don't. It's really a theory. There is, as Sarah said, an empathy in regards to that. But I think that just being a human being and approaching it from a very humanistic standpoint, if anything else, I think that we've all experienced times in our lives when we have felt oppressed in some form or fashion, or we have not felt seen or recognized. And I think that it's really important. We have a choice. I think sometimes in those moments is to do we fail to recognize those moments or times in our lives when we have felt that way, and are we going to choose to perpetuate that sense of feeling to somebody else, or are we going to choose a different pathway, and that is one of recognition and
Yeah.
appreciation.
And
Yeah.
understanding. And I really, Michael, Ariana just made a really
Oh yeah.
great comment that I was wondering if
Okay.
you could highlight. And Ariana, I think that that is what is so awesome about this community too, is, when you can handle it with grace and realize I don't know it all. I can be corrected. I've screwed stuff up. I was, talking about earlier on our show that I labeled something years ago when I first started selling vintage as Eskimo, not
Mhm.
understanding how derogatory that was, because I genuinely didn't know.
Didn't know.
And someone educated me on it, told me, I took that information and then I learned from it and I didn't do it again. So, it's being fluid, it's being teachable, it's being kind, and it's also recognizing what is true history and fact at this point. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and so you know what, and Linda, I'm just going to highlight this, and I really appreciate you bringing this up because I think that this is really important. Is that you are uncertain? You are uncertain in the terminology of do is somebody and I think this is the interesting thing is that there's never one person who can speak for the totality
No.
of a culture, right, or a race. So there may be people who are okay with being or prefer to be referred to as a Black American, or there may be people who prefer or only want to be addressed as African American. And it again, it depends on the individual. And I think that the best thing, and something we were talking about before coming on coming live, is that it is the way in which you present yourself. And I think that if you come across with sincerity and out of a genuine place of wanting to learn and to recognize um, somebody else, and if you say, "Do you prefer African American or Black?" I
Yeah.
think that you might be surprised at how appreciative somebody is in that moment because again, you're seeing somebody for who they are, and not making an assumption about them. So, and Linda, thank you so much for being
Candid.
bold enough, can't yes, and
Absolutely.
coming forth and saying that.
And that's the thing, it's never wrong to ask, and I think a lot of people are just afraid to come off racist because they genuinely don't know, and
Mhm.
that's why I think, these topics of conversation are important because, we can all learn from each other. We all have things to learn from each other.
Yes.
Traveler, yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. We're so glad you're here. So, we all do have something to take from each other, different cultures, and respect, I think, is the biggest thing. Um, Regardless what race, creed, whatever you are, we all want to be respected as human beings for what's important to us. And it's just good to learn as you go. I've learned so much since I started selling vintage about
Mhm.
history, about eras, about things I didn't even know. Women were persecuted terribly.
Yeah.
Um, burned at the stake as witches. I mean, there's so much in our history that I think is important to just lend an ear to. Just listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something we were talking about too, and you have to understand that. And I think that it's important though, because there is a sense of otherness about it, especially when you talk about racial or cultural identity. And it's easier to other it, especially when you look at skin color. However, I think that if you maybe take a step back and look at it from a much more personal aspect. And I know that the vast majority, at least 85 to 86%, if maybe not a little bit more, of our viewers are women. And let's look at where women were in society 50 years ago,
Yeah.
and maybe even 60 or 70 years ago. Again, look at Salem. They were being burned, and that was because they were strong willed, independent women who had a voice and who voiced it. And that voice was then persecuted as being satanic,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
it is an evolution and it is an understanding of maybe letting go of past, what do I want to say? I don't want to say prejudices. I want to say,
Misunderstood. I mean, I think a lot of it is misunderstood and undereducated. You know, when we look at
mhm,
our educational system and how it's failed on this topic in particular pretty badly,
It
right?
is, and
mhm,
it's a shame because a lot of teachers, they're so bound to what they can and can't say. I mean, the curriculum is what it is,
Mhm.
and
yeah,
it's so, if they, veer from it
bias.
just a little bit, then it's they could be in a lot of trouble for it. So I mean, it's just a hard thing, and I think that you know it all starts from home a lot of times, and so us as parents need to make sure that we're teaching our children, our grandchildren, about people that are different than us. And it's a very slippery slope. You want to be respectful. And I think it's all in the approach and how you ask. And we were talking about, like Ariana said, if somebody is having a live sale and they bring something and somebody is kind of offended by that and they say, you know what, I don't know about that. How I think that it's okay to bring that up, but in
Yeah.
a respectable way, not be like, "Hey, you're dumb. You called that. You're
Yeah.
racist."
Or
You know,
calling, I mean, I know when I ran Instagram Shop Network, several years back, there were those discussions, that were handled really not well because people would then get offended and then the person that was doing the offending didn't understand and it just became
big thing.
explosive in the comments when it really could have been handled with some sensitivity and communication and understanding, like
Well, it could have been an opportunity for people to learn and grow together.
right.
But in the vintage community, we have a challenge because we are so rooted in nostalgia and
Mhm.
love of something that's older. Being told that something you loved growing up is inappropriate, a lot of people can internalize that as shame. Like,
Yeah,
And
why
good
I know
point.
that? Why didn't I know that was bad? And so it becomes the everybody's too sensitive these days. And it's not about that. It's
No,
about understanding that I can be nostalgic for something, absolutely love it. I love this robe, and I completely understand that before me, women couldn't put it on.
No.
there,
which is why it's empowering to put it on.
You
yeah.
know, and
Hmm.
and it's things like that. Like where is that vintage style but not vintage values, right? The saying where it's like you can love
Yes.
vintage but you also can like realize that, hey,
Yeah,
I'm looking at a magazine where the shape of women's bodies isn't even real.
right, right,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
right.
it's okay to walk that line for having that nostalgia, but I think also like what a honor to be the people in vintage where I get to say like, hey, look at this magazine, it's from 100 years old, it has plus size women in it,
Mhm.
It,
you know.
Yeah,
And Pat and I 100% agree with you. I think that it is important. And I think one thing that, and let's go ahead and talk about it,
Yeah.
is that by and large, the community that we deal in, especially YouTube live sales, it very much does lack diversity. It lacks, more importantly, representation.
correct.
Um, and I don't think that that's through, I would hope that it doesn't come across as somehow that it is exclusive to any individual, to any gender, to any color, because, there are but a handful of men who are also doing this too. Do I think that it's as bad as, because especially as white men that woo woo, they don't have this opportunity to come up here on YouTube live sales? No, I don't. And it's obviously a very dumbed down um, analogy, maybe a bit poorly, but I think that that is important, Pat. It's extremely important
And
to have
that doesn't
representation.
yeah, that's not lost on us, Pat, either, because this conversation started with us wishing people a happy Indigenous Peoples Day on my channel earlier. And then we got into the conversation about as a white person, what is acceptable. So while I understand we don't have a person of color on the panel at this point, I also feel it's super important for us to say we've screwed up, we can do better, and this is how we would also like to help educate. So I think definitely a valid point, Pat, and not lost on us.
Yeah. Well,
The best, by the way. If y'all aren't subscribed to her channel, you better get on that, because she'll just decide to have a sale. Like, she'll just decide, and she'll just start selling before anyone's even in the chat. Awesome. It's
She's ready to go.
And she makes her own dolls, like amazing dolls.
Great crafter.
Darius and I had this conversation. We had a conversation we started the conversation. I was like, Darius, I'd love to have you on so we can have these discussions. And it's something that, I think it will be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
okay. So, Darius, if you would like, if you're comfortable with it, I think that, and there's no obligation, but perhaps you would like to share in the comments the thing that it is that you do collect. And I think that it's important because, again, there is a significant hesitancy for especially people that are not of color to buy, purchase, and resell certain items in American history. For me, I choose not to do it because I have a vastly different definition of what, I'll just say it, Black Americana is. I think much of what is termed as Black Americana is not representative of Black America. It is very much a caricature. It is a stereotype, and it does nothing to celebrate the Black or African culture. That is why I take exception to it. There have been a very select few pieces that I have seen that I think celebrates and is representative of a person. And in those, I will most certainly purchase and resell because they were not made in quantities. There was very much a system that was in place, and it was not only, it was quite frankly to capitalize on the oppression of other individuals. And that came not only through slavery, but through the continuation of stereotypes and the commercialization of those stereotypes into popular culture, into turning into racial stereotypes, characters into collectible items. And that is an important piece of our history. I just went on a tangent, but okay.
No, but I think it was a good point.
Well,
I think it
thank
was
you,
a good
Pat.
point.
Right.
Yeah.
I think sometimes though too, not only about racial things though too, some of the things, and I find myself, and I know that I've been guilty of it with talking about selling some things that might be a little borderline inappropriate as far as the exploitation of women, kind of like we get some of the postcards that are kind of cheeky with like a woman, looking like a dingbat and, so, and not even thinking about it. We're like, oh, that's funny. But, when we think about it, it could be very offensive to some people. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of things that if you really think about it, it could, it could spark some conversation, and I think that it's important to sometimes stop and think about it a little bit before we just kind of jump in and be like, "Ooh, this is really cool," and kind of think about it a little bit more thoroughly.
I think it takes twofold: empathy and education. And again, if you've made a mistake in the past in a sale or something on that level, I think it's always okay to just be like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And when you know better, you do better. And that was what we were talking about earlier is, all of us have life experiences where you may have grown up rurally and never been exposed to other cultures. That was me, until I got out into the world in my later teens. I grew up in rural Midwest America. It was farms, cows, and a lot of white people, and that was that. Not that there's anything bad. I'm not dogging that by any means, but I'm saying there was not a lot of cultural diversity. So it was up to me as a responsible human being to just educate myself on other ways of life, other places of living. You then run into other cultures and educate yourself about them, and I think that that's a good discussion to have. Thank you, Jody. Thank you so much for acknowledging, because I think we're trying to do something good here, and I think acknowledgement is first key. That this has been an issue. I know when I ran the Instagram vintage community, it came up repeatedly, not with myself, but other sellers that were insensitive to certain items. And we addressed that, just as a community, not being unkind, but trying to educate. And that was the perspective that I was coming from earlier too, is, allowing people to ask questions and not feel stupid or feel condemned. And then we all learn collectively together.
I think that's a really good point about not feeling condemned. I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from, is the worry that, the cancel culture, you're going to say something that's going to offend somebody. It's going to get taken way out into left field, and so you have that fear that you don't want it to affect your business and that sort. So I think that we need to start being okay with these sorts of conversations and being respectful of other people's, opinions and their feelings as well, and not just be so quick to jump on a judgment. Okay. But I think that it's important to ask,
I think it's important
and talk about
this. And, even if someone has said something horribly racially insensitive in front of you, which I think all of us have experienced that to one degree. Yes. And then you, as the person that is white, are stuck in the middle of, should I say something about how messed up that just was, or should I keep my mouth shut? And the answer for me is you need to say something about how messed up that just was. Mm-hmm. That's me personally, but everybody, is on their own journey of education. And I acknowledge that.
I would recommend to that sense
to acknowledge, when you're in a group of 5 people and somebody tells like a racially insensitive joke or something, yeah, that's not cool. I'm not into that. And I'm out. And you walk away, mm-hmm. and then they feel like, oh, well, you're just being sensitive. No, that's just not any kind of behavior that I choose to be around.
Well, it's the loss of social capital too. And a lot of people are afraid of that.
You're right.
You call out friends for like, did you just lose a friend in that moment? Mm-hmm. But I agree with you, Sarah. I think it's very important. So mm-hmm. I just wanted to call that out, because that loss of social capital is really scary for a lot of people.
Which also, Katherine brought up a wonderful point prior to this show too, that this is Global Mental Health Day. And, I think it is important to so many to feel seen, acknowledged, and heard, no matter where you are in life. Mm-hmm. And, we should listen to each other.
Well, I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that's the beauty of this conversation, though, too, is that some things are very discernible in regards to the way that we look physically, or even the way that we talk. Those things are very noticeable. They're very identifiable very quickly. And then when you talk about mental health, those are things that more often than not are unseen in many ways. But of course, there are mental health issues that can be recognized. And I think that that's the importance of this, is that it's never a question of being overly sensitive. For me, it's not a question of being overly sensitive. It's about a progression of how we as a society, nationally and globally, how do we become stronger? How do we become more unified? And more often than not, we do that by recognizing each other and by recognizing past mistakes. And it's not to say even sometimes it wasn't even done with intention. Mm-hmm. It was just simply done through a lack of understanding mm-hmm. that things were done. Things were social norms. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I don't like it when somebody, what is the saying? It's always funny until it's directed at you.
Mm,
And I think that's such an important statement. It's always funny when it's not directed at you. In other words, when it's a joke at somebody else's expense, we laugh. But
Yeah.
when that joke is at our expense, all of a sudden, it ain't so funny anymore. And I think that if you kind of navigate life through that, it's not about being sensitive, it's about being aware. And it's
mhm.
about making a choice of, am I going to make somebody feel the way that I felt in those moments, or can I make a different decision and be a more unifying person? I
Yeah.
don't think that that's being sensitive. I quite frankly think that that's being far more brave than to make flippant, ignorant comments and laugh it off
Yep.
than really doing some hard work, looking inside yourself and saying, you
I
know
can do
what?
better.
I'm not
I
going to
can
do
do
that anymore.
I
I
can
can
do
do better.
I can
Yeah.
do better. We all can do better,
Hmm.
and it's a humbling place to be,
Hmm.
when you get put in your I can do better place.
Yeah.
And but I think it's also important, and I think it's an important discussion, and I'm glad we're having it. And I'm looking at everybody in the comments, and I appreciate what many of you have to say. Yeah, it's a topic that I don't think anybody ever wants to talk about, especially white people, because it's so sensitive and taboo, and nobody wants to say the wrong thing. But I think when you're coming from a genuine place, and you're coming from a place of just trying to be empathetic and be kind and acknowledge fact and acknowledge other cultures and be respectful, it's really easy. you know
Yeah.
it's pretty easy.
And to Ginny's comment, everybody has a story. Not all of today's values are better than vintage values.
I
Um,
mean,
I
It
won't
depends on who
necessarily.
yeah, it
you
depends
could.
on what that could cover the gamut of so many things, not necessarily racial or, sexist things. We're getting to the whole gamut of religion and all that. But I think that it's kind of a blanket thing. I mean, when I when I want to, have a relationship with someone, I don't care about any of those, I don't care what they believe in. I don't care what they look like.
Right.
I don't care about any of those things. So I guess it's all in your own interpretation of what vintage values you're referring to, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think it's
Well,
important to acknowledge that there are races that have been persecuted throughout the years that we were not educated about. And I
Yep.
mean, I think we can all agree to that. Like that's fact. Like especially like I said, people my age and older, we were not educated about what happened on Juneteenth. We were not educated about any of that until we got older.
Yep.
So open-mindedness, I think, does a lot of good in this conversation too.
And it's
Just
okay to ask
um
questions.
and it is okay. And it's okay to have
mhm,
discussions as long as they're respectful, because this is how we learn, right? I mean, if it's
mhm,
never talked about by white people or anybody else, then it just stays taboo and undercurrent. And, then you get the gossip. Well, did you hear so and so sold this? And da, 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 da. No, if we can help one person out there and educate one person, the conversation was worth it, in my opinion. And Jody Renshaw brought up a good point too.
I
She said,
know.
there are things for that white people see as offensive for Black people that aren't necessarily offensive to Black people, which is why it's important to ask the population it matters to. 150%. Yes.
mhm.
And that's why these conversations are good, because I think people really may not know, Jody. So
Mhm.
I think that's a great, great point. Mhm.
Jody's an educator. She really is. She has it in her. I mean, she is a teacher. Like that's what she
Well, there
does.
you go. Yep.
But she is an amazing educator.
Yeah. And she's someone too that you can be open and honest and
Yeah.
ask, and she will hold no judgment.
Yeah.
I think
endless.
just a viewer just posted one of the most beautiful sentiments
Mm.
that I have seen in the chat, and it is out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Um, and to that point, what Sarah was saying earlier is that if we do find ourselves in situations, and it can be, as Catherine was saying, a concern of social capital, it's a struggle. And what do we do in those moments? I won't necessarily give advice as to what you should do in that moment because it is very situational. What I would encourage you to do is if you have not viewed the movie A Gentleman's Agreement. Again, it's a gentleman's agreement. I highly, highly recommend you check out that movie. It is a fictitious movie that is a man. He is playing. I think he's a Christian of some sort. However, as part of the history, there was a very large anti-Semitic um, social aspect to this country at one point. It was socially acceptable. And he decided rather than interviewing a person that was Jewish, he would actually play the role and present himself and introduce himself as a Jewish man to experience the things that an actual Jewish person would do. And that is how he then went about the story. And in it, there was a dinner party, and there was a guest that was invited who was making very anti Semitic comments while this person was present and had introduced himself as being Jewish. And the table sat in silence. And in it, there was a female companion, and they were talking about it. And she said, "Can you believe what he said? That was just so uncouth. How dare he?" And he said, "But you didn't say anything." And she said, "But I didn't laugh." And in it, he said, that is how ignorance and hate grow, is by people with good intention leaving too much room for it to grow. In other words, when we don't speak up to those things, silence is an answer, and silence does provide an opportunity for those things to grow. But again, it's just food for thought. It's just food for thought. And it's not to say that you've got to come out swinging. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's just food for thought. And again, I would really encourage anybody to check out that movie. Yeah.
I just want to say
So
kudos to Sarah for starting this conversation on your channel.
Yes.
I'm here, and anyways, this is the first
yeah,
time I camera with you, and just kudos.
you're muted, girl.
Muted.
Well, dang it. I was coughing. Sorry. Back at you, Catherine. Thank you for, all of you being here, whether you're in the chat or the three of you guys. I think that this is a good one. And I hope everyone comes away not feeling like it's been a difficult, ugly conversation, but rather something that we can all take something from,
Mhm.
I think it's more of a celebration kind of comment or conversation. I think it's a very needed conversation. And I think it's a conversation that needs to be continued.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to there's just such a stigma about, not confronting things that you don't know, that you're not educated on. And I think, like what you said, it's our responsibility to educate ourselves.
Mhm.
And I think that, I don't know. I mean, just that stepping out of that box and not being so fearful that you're going to offend somebody all of the time. And if you're doing things with respect, and I don't know, I think there's just a big
Absolutely.
difference there.
Mhm.
No sale tonight, Linda. This is just
yeah.
a conversation.
Yeah.
Monday nights are just talks.
hmm And this is wholly organic, might I add. We most
we
certainly
never
did
know
not.
what we're talking about.
We didn't know if we were going to be talking about this tonight, but here we are.
Oh,
And again, I just think it's a really important conversation. You know what? I will make it a little bit more personal. How about that?
Oh,
How about that? How about
that?
let's get real personal, and I'm going to get real personal on it to this level. So, as an individual who has throughout goodness, even some of my most early memories, um, that I have viewed life through the lens of oppression, of being an individual who is oppressed, who is made to feel wrong, who is made to be other than, abnormal. I think that I work through life and I view life by making those choices because I very much personally know how that feels. And again, from a very young age, knowing that I was different and not knowing what that different really was, but knowing,
Knowing.
um, and then growing, having a label assigned to that, and then to that label, having definitions applied to that, most very ignorant and intolerant. Many were disguised as right, just, and virtuous. And again, just like most oppression throughout the course of our human history, much of it has been disguised as being virtuous. And so again, I do take this topic very personally because I know what it's like, not necessarily because of the color of my skin, but for other things in life. And those things are very difficult. And I have made a choice to, I could blend in, right? Or I could say, oh, hey, you're making fun of that person because they look different. No, I know what that feels like. And again, I can't but help encourage you to think of times when you have been made to feel other or less than. And I encourage you to recognize how that feel, and I encourage you to make decisions when you are in those moments when you can bring about change, to be the person who brings about change. um, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a rare opportunity, and being able to get up here on this screen and talk about it, that's a huge honor. So yeah.
And I'm proud of you. You know,
Oh.
I'm proud of you because this is a big step for you to even talk about. So I'm very proud of you.
Oh, well, and this is the thing, and we can talk about this though too, is the difference, especially because, everybody on this screen and everybody that we have had um, on Vintage Rescue Squad have, well, I won't say every single person, but 99% of the people that we have had on this screen are, if you will, social media personalities. And there is a difference between hiding things and protecting things. And I think it's a very fine line, at much as of what we were talking about earlier and what I just brought up, is that there is this line, there is this invisible line. There is one for me where you want to be authentic and you want to share your experiences, but at the same time, I'm a business. I'm this figurehead. I am Michael Todd, the human being, the individual, but I'm also the Cult of Vintage. And the Cult of Vintage is me. Katherine Young, quite literally, has a working name that is her name. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knows Misty Pate, but Misty Pate's Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter, and Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter is Misty Pate, and Sarah Coleman is the Traveling Button, as is David, Junk Mantiques. What are you upset at? Oh, you were upset, honey.
She's so, I love her. She wears her emotions on her sleeve. I love
She
her.
does. She does. And you know what? And that's a beautiful thing. I can hear my mom out there laughing. Is she cracking up out there, Sarah? Girl, she out there cracking up at you right now.
Listen, we all handle our emotions in different ways.
We all do. Yes, we do. Yes. But yeah,
And
and that is the beauty of this community. But that's also the difficulty, and that is the struggle of being within the community, especially if you're going to be the one up here on screen, is that where is that line? When is too much too much? And even in sharing what I just shared, there is an apprehension in me because now that I put that out there, there's no getting it back. You know what I mean? And I share that, I think, for the importance of the conversation is why I felt the need to want to do that, is because I think that the point of the conversation is greater than any self-imposed
yeah,
self-preservation that I may have. And I think that it's important because I think many of you are here, you're very accepting of who I am. And I would hope that within that acceptance that I can help further that acceptance to be more encompassing. Because while it is something that you don't see, it is something that is very much felt by me. And yeah, there you go. And whether it is our skin color, whether it is the shapes of our bodies, it is the faith in which we choose to celebrate in.
same.
Same.
There are such a multitude of different things. And again, that is the beauty of this community. I know that there are people that watch us that are of vastly different political and ideological theories as the ones that I hold.
Mhm.
However, we can still come together within this community because we have a shared common interest, and that's vintage and antiques.
Absolutely.
And if it takes vintage and antiques to bring us together, to disregard things that are of, in my opinion, things that should be of little to no importance, things that do shape us as human beings, but we're still human beings. And if we can come together and have a good time and be in community, that's what this conversation is about, and the beauty again of this community. So
Well, and I think it is so brave of Michael just putting yourself out there like you just have. And I just want everybody to keep in mind, all of you, that we all have a story. We may not share it.
yeah, honey, we love you, girl. And she gonna mute herself, but she's not gonna turn off her camera
I'm good.
because that's all right. You're
I'm good.
good.
I'm just
You
saying,
are
like,
good.
sometimes you may not even know what somebody's backstory is, but they have one, and it pertains to a lot of this, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't always divulge all of our baggage, you know, in our videos, or, because there are a lot of things in our own personal lives and our own like mental health journeys that we do need to keep to ourselves. And I know that it can be very cathartic to
Yeah.
other people,
Cathartic. Yeah.
us to be able
Yes, look at this.
to
Hallelujah. Yeah.
to explain,
Praise.
but but there are some things that we do that I mean, I've had mental health issues my entire adult life. I take 4 or 5 different and antidepressants. I've been in therapy. I've had all kinds of things. I know that I project this very sunny personality, but I have very dark days where I don't even want to get out of bed. Or,
Hmm.
I've had moments where I'm like, I just want to drive away and never come back. We've all had these, not want to say we've all had, but many, many, many of us have had really dark, 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 dark days. And um it's just not something that I try to focus my content on, because I want people to come when they are having a dark day to get happy and to be uplifted. And that means a lot to me that I can do that for somebody else,
Yeah.
even though I may really want to drive my car off a cliff on some days, and I stay very, 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 very busy. That's how I cope with, my own mental illness. But, I think that we're all just a big old band of weirdos, and being accepting of one another, for no matter what walk of life you are, or where you come from, or the color of your skin, the your sexual orientation. All of those things I think are just thrown out the window if you're just a decent person, a decent human being, and you treat other people with respect and dignity that they
And
deserve.
dignity. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yes.
that's the thing. And I think, pardon me. And Ariana, I know that I said this not too when you were on Vintage Rescue Squad with us, and I cannot remember if you said it on Vintage Rescue Squad or if you said it when we were in Ohio. I think it was in Ohio. And I want to repeat it because I think this is so important, is that I know for me, and I know for many of us on the screen, whether they are here or they've shared the screen with us in the past, and I know for so many of you out there in the community that you're in the comments, maybe you're listening or you're watching right now. I know that you're here because maybe you don't have those people in your physical life that share the same passions, that get the same thrills, that get the same enjoyment out of the vintage and the antiques. They may humor you and they're like, okay, that's great. But there's no passion for those items. And you have sought that out. And here within this community, you have found people that have that same enthusiasm and that same passion. And that is what has driven you to this community. And that is why this community is so important for not just the people out there that are watching, that are in the comments, but for the people that are up on the screen, because most of us, we have the same story. And maybe we don't do the best job of communicating and sharing that story with you. Is that do we have people in our lives that will humor us with it? Sure. Can they maybe appreciate some of the cool stuff and there is a bit of an enthusiasm for that? Yeah. But do we have somebody that we're like, oh my God, look what I just found? And they're like geeking
Yeah.
out. They
Yes.
say, I
Yes.
just got this for $1. And you're like, oh my God. That is why this community is important. And it's just important to me to provide that same place for as many people as possible and
Yeah.
not get hung up on what our differences are. Because if we can get excited and share that passion and that fun, that's what
Nothing
should
else
matter.
matters. Yeah. Nothing
Yes,
else
that is
matters.
what should matter. Yeah.
Well, and
Hmm.
that's what I've tried to always say, on my channel as well. It doesn't matter who you voted for. I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
We're here for the
Hmm.
vintage, we're here for the vintage. We're here for each other. Let's just be nice to one another. And I wish there was more of that elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where people could come together, sharing their common love of whatever it is and drop all that other nonsense, you
Hmm.
know?
Interesting
Well,
relationships I find as an adult have been where I find my best friendships.
Yes.
Agree.
mhm.
Like
Agree.
I took a vacation with people from Tokyo because we love Aerosmith.
I love that you did that too.
That's awesome, Catherine.
I mean, like it's like it was an interest that brought us together. It was an interest that brought us together, everyone in this chat and everyone on this screen. I just have found in my adult life that it has been way more important than anyone ever told me it would be as a child.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what's so cool about what we do here on YouTube is, it is the four of us up here, but I love seeing what everybody has to say. And what a great community. So all of you guys, commenters and, Catherine and Michael and Misty, what a great community we have. Look at this. What a great
Hmm.
conversation. I'm proud of everyone.
And that's, you know what, and to that point, let's go ahead and let's talk about this one. We talk about, and I was having a personal conversation before we got on Vintage Rescue Squad. Didn't have anything to do with vintage, and sometimes we can we have this tendency to focus on the negative a little too easily, and I think that the reason that we focus on the negative so easily is because by and large it is a wonderful, beautiful community, and everybody gets along for the most part and everything's hunky-dory and everything's kumbaya. But occasionally there will be situations, most specifically it seems that it comes from individuals, um, maybe that have a hard time feeling like they have a place to fit within that community, and there can be resentments. There are insecurities, I think, sometimes within all of us, myself included, that we don't know what to do with those insecurities. And to bring the topic of the last conversation forward, again, to maybe make it a little bit more personal, when we have those insecurities, we don't quite know what to do with them. And so instead of internalizing and dealing with them appropriately as adults, we have a tendency to flip it and project it and push it out and to make other people, even if they're being happy and getting along, that can be triggering for some people.
Yeah.
That can be very upsetting for some people because they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to incorporate themselves within that. And so then there is the internalization that is then projected and pushed out, and then people are made to be other than. And it's a really interesting thing that can happen. So I don't even know why I would.
No, it's
Well, I
true.
mean, it's a social dynamic, kind of like what
Mhm.
Catherine was speaking to earlier. There's social dynamics that, I know some of us being really good friends feels threatening to, someone else, and it's not. We don't want to.
It's big when we get together as a big group, there's always some negative background to it, and something gets thrown that's not a truth, and things snowball and innuendos happen, and it makes us not even really want to get together and even film when we are together because we get attacked. We get attacked.
Yeah, yeah,
We've been
and
attacked.
well, okay, yeah. Whoa. So we have, and again, and in those moments, again, and especially because if, for lack of a better term, because we happen to be the ones that are up on the screen, so then you become the figurehead.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And we talk about, as Misty was saying, is that we all have dark days, we all have internal struggles. And trust me, when you see those things, there is a part that does want to retaliate, that wants to fight back, that
Oh,
wants to say, that's not true, and you don't know, and how dare you? But again, it's to what end?
not mine.
And that is where you have to really, really take a step back and say, is my need as an individual to defend myself, is that need greater than
No.
what that cost could be for the community? Is that conflict worth a back and forth? And quite frankly, it's not. um, it's never going to be worth it. It is one of those situations where it's a merry-go-round. It's a merry-go-round. Sometimes people just feel the need and the want and the desire to be right. You gotta sometimes just and as bitter of a pill as that can be to swallow, sometimes you just gotta let people be right. As wrong as they are, you just gotta let them go ahead, go be right.
Yeah.
um and that's the thing. Yes, you always got to try to keep smiling, and you always got to make sure that you're making the pardon me, the focus, the togetherness, and not the divisiveness.
Mhm.
Exactly, Wenden. Is it worth my energy? No,
No.
it's
No,
not. As
really.
they say, the truth needs no defense. The truth needs no defense. It's often
Yeah.
ourselves that we're
Amen.
trying to defend. Yeah. And there have been really good people on this platform that have left because there's been back and forth, or they've been made to feel a certain kind of way, or this person doesn't like them, and this commenter says, oh well, I know what you meant, or if it's another content creator, there's always going to be that. And Brie, that's the thing. The vast majority of mature adult people can, you see right through that. Yeah.
Thank you. Amen to that. Yeah. And I think too, being authentic has a price sometimes.
Yeah.
It's this, you cry on camera. It's empathizing with somebody whose dog got run over last week and they've come to your sale because they need a laugh. Being authentic is it's not difficult, but
Well,
it, it's
but
challenging because you do have those boundaries, you know what I mean? Michael, you know what I'm saying? Like those, you want to keep like the personal boundaries of I don't want to go into my personal life. I'm just here for the vintage. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then, sometimes you let that guard down and slip.
yes,
And that's okay too.
But you know what? I think tonight is, I can't but help think that this conversation happened for a reason. What that reason is, I don't really know right now, to be completely honest with you. It happened.
that's an
And
honest
so I
thought.
think that we have to embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just where we are at. Sarah, you had a beautiful conversation this afternoon. I know Misty and Catherine both had high praise. I saw a number of people in the comments that were able to tune into it. And it's as you said earlier, this isn't a conversation that can be had in an hour. It's not a
Mhm.
conversation that can be had in 3 or 4 or 5
No.
or 6. It's an
Here,
ongoing conversation. Yeah.
going.
Yeah. A
And
lifetime, a
yes,
history.
lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a
Yeah.
history. Yeah.
It is. It is. But I'm glad that, everybody is kind and on board. And I will say, making the transition over here to YouTube, there's such a support here that is just real and it's nice. And, I know some people have, left YouTube for whatever reason, and that's okay. But I've also found it as a really nice place to connect with people when otherwise, I mean, I'm kind of isolated where I am, So I don't know. I enjoy all of it, and I'm glad we're all here. How about that?
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. But again, it's one of those things you get caught up. It's like, it's the night sky,
Yeah.
it's all black. And the one thing that you see is that one star. And you see that one star is because it's so different from everything else. Um, it's like the negativity, the positivity is the night sky, but the negativity is that one star. And what do we do as human beings? We focus in on that one little pinpoint of light and we just obsess and say it's there and see and see and see, but we're disregarding the sky, the
The
entirety of the
bigger
sky in
picture.
the meantime. Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
tell exactly which comment in the last 2 weeks I remember.
See, isn't that the crazy thing though?
Mhm.
It is. It is. And Mark has this conversation with me too, because I'll like, if you want to have a bad day, if you want to have a really good day, read your YouTube comments. If you want to have a really bad day, read your YouTube comments. You know what I mean? They both can go, and I will read a comment that's not very nice, and there are plenty. And I'll like just be in a bad mood and I'll be upset about it. And Mark will be like, "What are you so upset about?" And I'll tell him, he's like,
Hmm.
"You are going to let that one comment out of the 100 other positive, comments. You're going to let that one comment ruin your day. Really?" And it does put things in perspective. But I think that we're all human and words hurt.
Yeah.
And being bullied, I've been bullied. Michael's been bullied. Sarah's been bullied. We've all been bullied by people in the comments and other content creators. So I mean, it's a thing. It is a real thing, and it is something that we do struggle with. And I hate the comment, "Oh well, you put it out there. You put yourself out there." No, I didn't put
No,
myself
not
out
for that.
there to
Not for that.
be, you know,
Yeah.
for people to be mean to me. That's
Yeah.
not what I put myself out there for.
Sadly, though, I think, and this is just such a basic statement, but it's so true. People that are mean to others are deeply unhappy with themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I always have to think that when somebody's really acting like an ass and saying something stupid about me that is just ludicrous, I'm like, wow, you must really hate your life. That sucks. I'm
It's
sorry.
like little things. Like I put out a video with this horrible, and if you watch my vlog, you will know it was like this. I get a lot of comments. Oh, you're making me dizzy. You move too fast. Blah, blah, blah. I'm fat. If you've ever shopped with me, I do. I'm all over the place. naturally. So I'm used to those comments, but I specifically said, I'm using this new camera. I'm playing with it. It's not, I know it's all over the place. It was content that I had to use because it was me opening up, things that I had bought. I can't refilm that. I've already opened it up. So I had to use it. And it was, oh, can't watch. It's making me sick. Oh, can't watch. It's like, why would are you going to waste your day or waste 5 minutes of your time telling someone that they're making you sick?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Right.
Why not be positive? Why do you have to?
Because I think people enjoy inflicting pain because it's a projection of a deeper level. If we really want to go there, it's a projection of a deeper level of unhappiness that you don't possess, and neither do I. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. What is it? Hurt people do hurtful things.
Yep. There's a lot of hurt people out there.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that are lonely and hurting, and at times they lash out. And, I think, again, as people that do put ourselves out there, you got to just grow some damn thick skin. And honestly, being, overweight my whole life, I got that thick skin, and I've dealt with the ugliest crap you've ever want to hear people have said about me has been said.
Yes.
And you just kind of rise above, honestly. It creates character. That's a crap thing to say, but it's true. Creates character, all the turmoil that you go through as a human being.
And that's a sad reality, Brenda. That's true. Some people just are. Some people just are. For whether it's environmental, conditional, a combination of both, probably. Some people just simply are. And you got to let them just simply be.
And simply be. Everybody's on a journey and where they are in life. And, sometimes journeys align and it's beautiful. And then some people are freaked out by your journey, or they're jealous, or they're angry, or they just don't like your face.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
I'm a total people pleaser, but I always have to remember, and it's not my words, it's the words of Dita Von Teese. You can be the juiciest peach, and some people just don't like peaches.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like I always have to remember that. Like, I always want everyone to love me. I want everyone to like me. And it's like, guess what? If they meet you and actually don't like you, it's okay.
It is okay.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that as an adult, and just on a deeper level, that I don't need to be liked by everyone.
Right.
I think everybody thinks, oh, well, I've got this comment that came in and they're trying to ruin my day. You didn't ruin my damn day. I just blocked you and move on. Literally the comment of a stranger, or even somebody that thinks they know me, but they don't really know me. It goes literally like this.
Yeah, I block.
Yeah, and that's okay. And that is okay to block and ignore, and, don't give it any of your time and energy. Just block it and move on. I mean, it's easy to say because it does. I mean, you're like, oh, but then you're like, bye.
What'd you say?
On my face.
I'm an old lady on my porch on my rocker yelling, "Get off my lawn!" And I'm going to make that happen.
There you go. Oh my God. I know. I think everybody's been through so much, and this is an important thing to acknowledge. I just saw a comment about someone that was a frontline hospital worker, and yes, everybody's been through so much the last 2 to 3 years. Isn't it just, don't you just want to be kind and project kindness, after what we've all collectively been through? We've lost friends. We know people that have lost family.
Yeah.
My God, we've all lived through something globally together that was awful. Can we not rise above and just be better, be kinder, be decent?
Kindness is free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good shirt. Kindness is free.
Mm-hmm.
Idea.
I mean,
girl, yeah, you would be amazed. It's like, I didn't know you guys got bullied. I'm like, oh, look. We just don't talk about it. But yeah.
We don't. And see, that's the thing. I will not do it. I'm not going to bring it. I'm not going to lay my
energy.
I don't want to lay my burdens at the feet of my viewers. That's not what I want to do. I want people to watch my videos and be happy, or be, be in a silly mood after they're done. Not,
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about, my trials and tribulations. That's not what I want to lay at my viewers' feet. That's not fair in
What
my.
is it? That's not what you guys signed up for. So why am I going to go on here and like bawl about all my personal business? It's
Well,
just
and I will say this, and I think that and again, I'm going to go back to the personality and it being a business. And I think that when you put the two together, it can be very hard to distinguish, what am I watching here? Am I watching a reseller? Am I watching a thrifter? Am I watching an antiquer? What exactly is this, a personal vlog? What's going on?
yeah,
And there is nothing to, while I personally would not make content that addresses my personal struggles, that's not for me. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying it's not for me. I think that when we talk about this, and we're going to talk about this from the reselling, I think that it is in your best professional interest to, if you feel the need to address personal things, is to make a separate channel to discuss those things and to have your business be your business,
right.
because it can almost feel like you're peddling in a little bit of manipulation.
Yep.
If
And
I and I'm gonna be frank, and I'm being frank from a viewer's standpoint, and maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a content creator now. But for me, I almost am like, why are you telling me this? I'm just here for XYZ. We're getting into this, but I guess we're doing that here tonight, though, aren't we? Um,
not
Oh, yeah.
competitive level.
Yeah. A little bit of hypocrisy there in that statement.
Not really though, because I think there's a difference between someone that comes on and says, "Hey, I can't pay my car payment, buy my vintage," versus sharing authenticity as being a reseller and the history and so on that is important to us. I'm not saying feel sorry for me, buy my vintage at all. In fact, that's the opposite of, and that's why I don't get my personal life on the screen. I don't need anybody's pity or anything. I just want to be known for good vintage and maybe some giggles. And I don't know. I think everybody just needs me tonight.
And Dan.
Hi,
And Nan.
where's Nan? Does she have fire? Was she set fire to my Christmas tree?
Oh no.
Well, you know what, and I think Jody, you bring up, this is a thing though. I think when you talk about, and I guess Jody, thank you for helping me put that in perspective. Is that because racial issues, and whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, racial issues very much do play a very active and very identifiable part in vintage and antiques. They do. You can walk into, and there's not been one antique mall that I haven't walked into where I haven't seen racial issues at play,
Right.
or gender identity, or sexism and misogyny. All of those things I have seen in just, and I would say about 99.9% of antique malls that I have walked in. So it very much is on topic in regards to vintage and antique items, especially collectibles, because again, there was there was commercialization, there was capitalization on racial stereotypes, misogyny, and it, let's just go ahead and say it. It still happens today, right now, in the 21st century, in the year 2022. And the reason that it continues to happen is because, like Jody was saying, like we're saying tonight, there is a hesitancy. There is a hesitancy on people that have the very best of intentions to speak up, to say anything,
Right.
because we don't want to say the wrong thing, because we want everybody to like us, because we don't want to alienate anybody else. But sometimes you have to take that self-imposed self-preservation and let that go, because something is more important than the self, than the individual. And again, I think that this community is more important than any one individual. And it is only through the combined individuality pulled together that we are a community anyhow. So
Taylor brings up a good point too that we've not even really touched on, and this is a really good point actually too, Taylor, because she's young, you know,
Grr.
younger, and she, you know,
Catherine is, yeah.
yeah,
Ariana.
Ariana,
Yeah.
yeah, you when you go into an antique mall and you know you do have people that are like, or what are you doing in here? Like they think that you
Uh-huh.
don't know anything, you know, like
Right.
you couldn't possibly know anything. So, I mean, I think that those are things that we don't think about, you know,
Mhm.
in this community as well. There are a lot of younger people who are in this community that um you know have a lot of knowledge and they do know they do have a lot to offer in this community as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But that's, and again, that's the thing. It's like no matter who you are or where your position is, there can always be a sense of isolation. There can always be moments of otherness. There's always a sense of reductiveness, of being made to feel less than. Some of them are more readily identifiable, some of them are less so. So again, in those moments, take those moments as opportunity. Don't dismiss those moments, but when those moments arise where you can be the person who affects change, I encourage you, even if it's in a small way, to affect that change, because I do believe that those things do have a rippling effect. I would say that I am living, breathing proof of those ripple effects, and you just never know where those things can lead you in life. So yeah,
Yep.
they some really positive, amazing things can happen.
Well, and I think when you surround yourself with positive people and you surround yourself with people that are like-minded, people that aren't out to use you, people that aren't, trying to see what they can get out of you, and, people that actually care about you, this becomes a whole lot easier and more fun. Um, I have and Taylor was talking about her age and walking into an antique store and people looking at her crazy and whatever. I've dealt with that here with local sellers, too, that have been around a long time on YouTube and other places. And, well, you're just a newbie and I know you don't know, but in that condescending tone. And I'm like, you do know I've sold vintage for 9 years now, but it's that, somebody's always trying to compare my whatever's bigger than yours. And it's kind of lame and gross, especially with locals. I don't enjoy that vibe at all.
Call for tune. You really do bring up an excellent point. And again, that's something that I was speaking about earlier, is that we are saying that we want you to affect change, and we want you, and it's okay for you to affect that change because we're being just and we're being virtuous. And on the flip side, and this is the thing that's really interesting, is that the opposite mental state of us is thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
They're thinking they're fighting the good fight. They are thinking that they are doing what is right and what is virtuous. And the really
Mhm.
interesting thing is that it's still the same coin.
Yeah.
It's just the inverse. It's still the same coin, but it's just the inverse. So I think that you brought up I think that you brought up the impetus of the big problem is that you have let's just break it down into two. You have two kind of mind frames, and both are thinking, well, no, this is right and just, and they're thinking this is right and just, but they are in conflict with one another because they can never see each other because one's on this side and this one's on the other side, and never do the two meet. So is that just some universal balancing act? Could be.
I don't know.
Could be.
I
Yeah.
I kind of that idea of two sides of a coin. I think people in the vintage community, a lot of us have a really kind of like a foot in both worlds
Mm.
Okay.
cases, and I think we can leverage that in different ways. We can walk lines on different sides. And I think that's really important. I think the people who have foot in both worlds tend to be the ones that cause change. I love this speaker, Lovia JJ. She always says, I'm so sick of allies. I really want an accomplice.
Mm.
Okay.
And you were talking about speak up, say something. And I feel like a lot of us in the vintage community, we are those people that ride the line that we can view both sides of the coin. And I think not a lot of people, it's super frustrating. I was going to say it's such a gift. And I was like, but like, I come from a family that has very different beliefs than I do, but yet my mom's in the chat.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important when you are that person that has foot on both sides and maybe can see that coin spin.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to be the accomplice. I think you have the ability to spin the coin.
Absolutely.
It's really important.
I like that, Katherine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the accomplice part of it all.
Yeah.
Oh, you should hear her
Mhm.
speech where she talks about it. The entire crowd breaks out and roars. It is the funniest line ever because she goes into like allyship and kind of like mocks it and then's like, I'm looking for an accomplice. It's really great.
Mhm.
She's an
Yeah.
excellent public speaker.
That's
I will
awesome.
most definitely be checking that out.
Well, and I think that's something I like what Katherine's saying. And I think there's so much to learn for people our age and older from younger people, listen to what they're saying, listen to their ideals and their beliefs and what's important to them. The younger generation has a lot of really great things to say.
Mm-hmm.
And equate it to this. It's like technology. I can base it based off of the analytics that YouTube provides me about where the age range is. And the
Yeah.
vast majority of people are, 55 and above. And, you weren't raised with technology. You weren't raised with a smartphone. You weren't raised with the internet. You weren't raised with YouTube yet. And that was change. It was difficult. It was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now. And
Mhm.
you had to have some people show you how to use it. And you might be a little rusty at it still. And sometimes you might mess up at a couple of things. Yet
Mhm.
you figured it out. You figured out to the extent that you have a YouTube account. You figured out how to engage in a chat because you had a desire for
Right.
that. So I just encourage you to continue to have that desire.
Keep
Change is difficult.
learning, keep
It's
learning,
frustrating.
growing.
Yeah.
I think that's what is so important in what we do is to learn and learn and learn some more and then, evolve your style and evolve how you do things. And it's a journey, this reselling thing. I have had ups, I have had downs, I have had lows, I have had highs, and that's the truth. This isn't easy. This is not overnight. This is a lot of work, and it's a lot of work from the heart and putting yourself out there in a way to any of you that have video content or otherwise. It's a heavy thing sometimes to take
It,
on, and especially when you first get involved in it and you don't realize what a heavy thing it's going to be, and then, wow, I have an audience that shows up and watches my shows and my videos, and you want it to be good and you want it to be consistent and you want to educate people and you want to have fun. And we were talking about that on my show earlier of just being on that, pressure to be on. And
I love hearing that, like Kelly and KB, they've had to have help with technology because it is, it is very intimidating at first.
yeah.
But, I mean, again, if you have questions over something, it's okay to send an email and say, how do I do? Because I've had people, how do I do the whatnot? I don't understand. It's okay to ask. What am I hearing a squeaking? Is that just me? Is anybody
no,
else?
it was like an electronic.
Yeah.
It's just like a
Missy,
feedback.
it's behind you. It's behind you.
Don't do that.
Baby secrets.
Baby secrets.
Baby secrets is back.
She had to look. You saw her peek. But she
I
was
was
like,
thinking, like, I'm hearing a squeaking come from somewhere.
she was like, don't do that.
But I think it goes when like never stop learning. We're always learning, and technology is something that, whether you like it or not, it is what it is now, and this
Mhm.
is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And I really applaud the people that have really, kind of experienced it a little bit, and be and it took that intimidating leap, and there it is again.
Yeah.
I heard it. It's a little mouse friend or something.
Well, I think a lot of it, though, did have to do with COVID because it very
Yeah.
much forced people to figure it out because the world is at a point now where if you wanted to remain at home and not go out, you
Hmm.
had to know how to use technology. So it quite literally was a sink or swim
True.
scenario. So it forced people to figure it out. So you could order your stuff online and have it delivered or picked literally.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of that did help. And Evan, the analytics that I'm talking about, it's an aggregate of your posted content. So yes, definitely there is definitely a graphic, typically a demographic, typically that will primarily watch a YouTube live vintage and antique sale or is available to watch it at 1 p.m. But I think it speaks more to the vintage and antique than it does the time of day. Again, as a former retail manager, I saw a wide variety of folks come in during the weekdays. At all times, it was very young to very old. Um, it just that's the way of the nation. I think America especially is that the vast majority of Americans are service industry and a variety of different service industries, and that there's really very little 9 to 5, the whole Monday through Friday 9 to 5. A lot of that doesn't exist for a lot of folks. So, but it's just the posted
Yeah.
content. Yeah.
And I choose to have my sales right smack dab in the middle of the day and not in the
Why?
evening. Why? Because I
Why?
want to work normal hours. I want to work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I
Well, I
and
mean,
I
that's not really normal, but okay, girl, go ahead with it.
well, I mean, I do work on the weekends too. I work 7 days a week, but I mean, I that's just I like my evenings free. I mean, I have Vintage Rescue Squad on Monday nights, and I have 4-Eyed Vintage on Sunday nights. But I like to keep my evenings with hearing the squeak again with
What
my
is that?
I think it's me, actually.
You do?
I do. I think you're hearing my pet fountain.
Oh,
That's cute.
Hearing my pet fountain. I really think you are. So I was like,
Does it
moving.
sound like a digital mouse to get the cats to come running? They're like, mouse. Mouse is in the water.
Running water can matrix and
oh,
can change. Do you know what I anyways?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But also you guys can see through YouTube when your audience is online. Like you can see that.
yeah,
yeah.
Like that, you would not run a sale the time that it says your audience is not here.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to Grandma 11, this is something really important to talk about is that, and we do understand that not everybody has the discretionary income to come on and buy what are very much luxury goods. They are. They are non-essential items to life. And we certainly know and understand that. And I do want to impress upon everybody, and I know that I can safely say this for everybody that is on the screen currently, is that when we say we appreciate you being there, whether it's to view us and you're not interacting with the chat at all, you're just watching a video, you're hitting a thumbs up, you're giving a comment, you're here in the chat. All of that helps us grow our business. Does the purchase of an item help us the most? Yes, of course, it's a business. Of course, the money, that immediate cash transaction, is what does help us as a business the most.
Yeah.
However, every single thing does help. And all of that leading up to that transaction, all of that leading up to that transaction is what allows us to do that transaction. So please never think that you're obligated to attend a sale and have to buy. You don't have to.
Right.
If you don't have the money and you buy something and then you're like, I can't buy that, like, no, you don't do that. Just show up, have a good time, just throw it on the TV, go about the day cleaning, doing whatever it is you got to do. And if my mouth is running in the background, thank you very much. I'll appreciate you. Sure do.
And leaving a comment, it really does help a lot
Yeah.
too. And doing the thumbs ups, just
All of
leaving comments on a shop with me, or on a on a recorded video does right, Nancy. Every message in the chat, every thumbs up, every view, every comment, it does help. And you don't have to spend a dime doing that.
And thank you to those of you. I will say, I there are some of you that are so religious on, you're the first person at the sale, you're the first person that's liked my video, you're the first person that's shown up for me. And I just want you to know that doesn't go unnoticed either, because thank you for all of the comments. All of that feeds into that big algorithm. So even though you're just saying, hey, I liked your video, to me, that's like, oh, this person is trying to help me out too, because they left a comment. So all of that means a lot. Thank you, guys.
It does. It really, really does.
Yeah, I have views that I know they like don't know what to say, and they just put a smiley face, and I super appreciate that.
Yes.
Because I see their name, and so I know you watched my video, and I know you were there, and I know you took an effort to support me. Like, that's great. That is awesome. So
and when you see like the same, like there are several people that like they leave such beautiful comments, and I always look forward to reading those comments. And a lot of times it's like, I'm commenting too much. I'm like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
I look forward to reading and getting that positive feedback is so important.
Well, just like we're all extremely busy, we also acknowledge that many of you are extremely busy as well. So when you take the time out to, like and comment and all of that, it just means a lot. We appreciate it genuinely. Every little bit helps. And I genuinely, a year ago, would not have dreamed that I'm sitting where I am and getting to do what I'm doing. And here I am. And I'm just intensely grateful. Thank you to everybody that's supportive and lovely and kind, helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know what, Pammy Whammy? That is a great question. I have no clue, but I will say that I don't know if it counts towards. Oh, okay. So it does count towards the analytic. It's, I guess, I would just say this. If you're in the comments and you see a comment that you like that somebody else made, hit the thumbs up and reply to their comment too. It doesn't have to just be about me. It doesn't just have to be about the content. If you're going through, and again, just like the live chat here, and if you're able to engage in community in the comments, oh my gosh, that's an honor. Yeah, please do that. Yes.
Yes. And those little ticky dot things, like liking other people's comments, every single bit of that does factor into what is considered engagement. So yes, all those little things matter. They sure do.
Lorraine says that I always tune in, never bid, first time commenting. I love the live sales. Well, thank you for commenting.
Thank you, Lorraine. What a great night to make that first comment. Thank you.
Love it.
Hi. Yes. And 100%, always please do that, because that's encouraging for the other person. Because again, it all goes back to that one thing. It's about feeling seen. It's about feeling recognized. We all want that in our lives. There's no shame in admitting that. And so if you see something and that sparks something in you enough to hit thumbs up, hit the thumbs up. Don't give it a second thought. Don't think nothing about it. It doesn't notify. The only time that it notifies a user when they get a thumbs up or a like is from the content creator. So you are working in complete anonymity. So if you're hesitant thinking, well, I don't want this person, you don't have to. Just hit the thumbs up on their comment. Hit like on their comment. And if you want to and you're comfortable enough, then hit reply and reply to them 100%.
Yeah.
I always have to, if I make a mistake in my video, we all edit something wrong or whatever. People will ask about it. And in my comments, people will be like, oh, that was an editing mistake. And they'll catch it for me because I'm not answering it by that time.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Sandy says, I got called out today. They just don't know how I sat here and watched YouTube videos. I said, well, none of your business. But if you must know I'm disabled and these people saved my life. Oh,
Sandy,
bless your heart.
that's so sweet.
Yeah, and again, Sandy, thank you so much.
Yes.
And that's certainly something that I know that many of us have seen a number of times. And again, it's one of those things where it's the night sky, and the thing that we're focused on is that one star, it's that negativity. And it is all it takes sometimes is for somebody to snap us back into the reality of the importance sometimes of what we can do, because we're so caught up in the business, the transaction, and make the content, find the stuff, get the stuff on video, get it edited, and you're very like a robot about it, and you got to get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. And then sometimes, and more often than not, when you're having one of those dark days and you see that comment, you're like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
you know,
Absolutely. I mean, that's
yeah.
going to make me emotional. It is very much so. There I've been so many times when I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. And then I get a comment like that from like what Sandy just said, and it makes it all
Okay.
worth it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Sandy,
you.
for saying that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what was that person doing sitting on YouTube scrolling through comments looking at people to yell at?
I know
Right.
you want to talk about
With
somebody
their
having
time.
too much time on their
right.
hands.
What are
I
they
mean,
doing?
Probably a fake
hello.
account.
Hello.
Goodness.
Never, girl, never.
There are people that have them.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
there are. We found
Yes.
out. Interesting.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, Sandy. And you know what? Here is the thing. Let's leave it on that note. Let's leave this evening's Vintage Rescue Squad with appreciation and
Yeah.
thanks to each and every single one of you out there that is with us actively tonight. Perhaps you'll watch us on replay. Thank you so much. Again, I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to say it. Is that while we are the ones up here on the screen, the only reason that we get to be up here on the screen is because of each and every single one of you. We know that, we acknowledge that, we respect that. We are not perfect by no means, but we will do our best to continue to evolve and to protect and to maintain this community, because it is filled with some absolutely amazing individuals.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
Thank you.
maybe, yeah, just, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. So before we wrap it up officially, Katherine, lady, when can we see you next? What have you got coming up for us?
So you will see me next tomorrow on the Withering Cottages channel. I moderate for her
Ooh.
sale. So go over there, and I kid you not when I say I moderate, because her sales are so good, I would buy it all. So I give myself a job, and then I don't.
You're so fun too.
So go over there. It's an amazing sale. And then you will see me. A new video is dropping tomorrow. And it will also feature Jody Renshaw and Sandy from My Flippin' Van Life. They'll be in that one too.
Oh,
Ooh.
We get to see the van and the dogs in that one. So
yes. Aren't those dogs so cute? Her van is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I usually drop regular content on Saturdays. So those are the days that you find me, but I am a culprit of dropping videos kind of whenever I feel like it.
Love it.
Love
Get
I
it.
want to be more like that. I honestly do. I want to be more like not so regimented and just do them when I can. And I like that. I'm gonna be more like Katherine.
I agree.
Katherine.
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
This is
love
what
it.
Misty and I will have a conversation. She's like, I didn't post the video. I'm like, girl, I can't post the video today.
I
And you
don't-
feel like you're breaking the rules or something. You're
I
like,
did. I know, isn't that funny? I'm like, I didn't even post a video today. I'm not even doing it today.
Not even doing it.
yes. And Miss Sarah Coleman, when can we see you next, lady?
Oh gosh. Okay. So this is Monday night. Wednesday. I literally had to take a moment there. Wednesday, I will be back on my channel for the Coleman collective rather, with hubby Junk Drunk Me Antiques. That is our weekly show where we bring all kinds of variety craziness. And then on Thursday night, I host the Vintage Quartet on my channel. And that is hosted by Mother Tucker's Antiques, myself, and David Hubby, Junk Drink Me Antiques. And then we always have a rotating guest. So this Thursday, our guest is going to be Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter live. She's going to be there live.
And I'm bringing all vintage Halloween die cuts.
Ooh, it's going to be good.
Wow.
So tune in Thursday night. It's going to be fun. And then after that, I'll be back on Sunday for what, Michael? What is it?
All right, vintage. That's right.
Yes.
For vintage. Mr. Pay, when can we see you next, lady?
Tomorrow, you can see Michael, The.Cult.Of.Vintage, and I at 1:00 p.m. Eastern on my channel, Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter. Yeah, live. So I do have a second channel, and it's my live sales are on that channel, and we'll be live 1:00 Eastern tomorrow, and then Wednesday at 11:00 a.m. Eastern, I will have a whatnot sale, and it's going to be all smalls, buyer's choice.
Ooh.
That's good.
So yeah, you guys, as Misty said, I will be back on Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then Wednesday, I will be having my solo sales. That is Wednesday on my channel, The Cult of Vintage. And that again is at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's right. We like to get fancy on Wednesday afternoons, sure do. You guys, I do just want to remind you, if by accident, of course, you are not subscribed or following along anybody's adventures on Instagram, down in the description of the video, you will find links for all of that. Those are those little blue lines. Is all you have to do is go ahead and click on that, hit subscribe or follow, depending on which one. Don't forget to engage in the content. It does help the content reach further out there. Again, it is completely free. It is an easy, simple way of showing some support to some really hard-working folks out there. Again, in the description video, you're going to find links for everybody. That's right, Ruthie. Follow, like, comment, and subscribe. You're really helping out some really good people. Hopefully, you really got to see a whole new aspect of that tonight. Ladies, Katherine, Sarah, thank you so much for agreeing to be on with us this evening. It was an amazing night, certainly a very organic conversation, a conversation obviously that needed to be continued. I would encourage you to go check out Sarah and Amy's chat from earlier today that is posted on Sarah's channel. You can kind of see where the conversation began. Again, encourage you to do that. And you guys, every single one of you out there, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for letting me cry on your channel, Michael. I really
my
publicly sob like a weirdo.
There is nothing wrong with crying.
Oh, I know. I just hate to do it on camera. I feel like a wiener. See, somebody said wiener and mermaid bathroom tonight. I saw you. All right.
Shotties. Alrighty, guys. Thank you all so much. We hope that you all have a great evening, and we'll see you all soon. Good night, everyone.
Night, guys.
Night.
Cheryl Cornett, big love.